Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Bishop Talk. Today, I'm glad that you have joined me, and I'm going to introduce our guest in just a few moments here. But we invite you to enjoy all of the Bishop Talks. You can find them on our sunshinecathedral.org website, and also posted on Facebook and also our YouTube channel as well. Today, of course, we're doing Bishop Talk with my co-host, Bishop Durrell Watkins, and with our guest today is Dr. Kwok Pui-lan. Professor Pui-lan and I go back to seminary days when I sat at her feet as a student, learning many, many things along the way that has still benefited me today as well in my ministry. So we want to say a very special welcome to Dr. Kwok Pui-lan and Professor Pui-lan. We're going to let you self-introduce yourself. It's the way we do this as we begin the show and allow you to tell us what you want our viewers and others to know about you.
Thank you very much, Bishop Griffith and Bishop Watkins. It is so good to be with you. My name is Kwok Pui-lan. Kwok is my family name, and Pui-lan, my given name. I put this Kwok first to honor my Chinese heritage. And I am now a distinguished scholar at the Episcopal Divinity School. It is at this school I meet the two bishops and had the delight and honor of walking a particular journey with them while they were at school. And I have been with EDS for 25 years. And then for 7 years, I was a professor at Candler School of Theology at Emory University. I have retired last year, and I started my podcast too, which is called Kwok and Roll. And so
great.
Please check that out.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, Professor Pui-lan, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today and doing our version of our podcast with us. And as I mentioned earlier to you and to our viewers, our focus for this month is giving everything that we're going through here in our own country and the global impact that America, if you will, is having on the world. We wanted to choose a topic that we felt might be relevant for people, especially those who are going through different things at different levels in their lives. And the focus topic is the importance of faith in uncertain times. What is your kind of initial response to that particular question for us today as we think about all that's going on around us locally as well as globally?
Yes, indeed, this is very uncertain times. We cannot believe within 100 days that the country, United States, has changed so much. I am an alum of Harvard University. Many of us have heard that the Trump administration threatened to seize federal funding for the university. And I am very proud of Harvard for standing firm. So we are really living in uncertain time. The Trump administration wants to change the federal government, education, mass media, as well as all the fundings and grants for the poor and the oppressed, not only in the United States, but also in the world. That is why we really need to have hope and faith to live by. And I think this is a wonderful series because different speakers will help our audience to figure it out how we may live in hope and courage to face uncertain times.
I am excited because we do have different people speaking from different perspectives. And so recently we had Rabbi Denise Edgar's speaking, of course, from a pastoral viewpoint as a rabbi, a congregation and denominational leader, for sure also a denominational leader, but you're a theologian. And so I'm very interested in how theology can shape our responses to this. First of all, we have to name this. I really think this is a Bonhoeffer moment, and we have to name this as an oppressive and frightening time. And it not only deserves, but demands a response. And that's where our theology is going to be very important, of how we respond with integrity, how we use our what we believe about what's ultimate to give us the courage to do what we need to do. So I want to hear about how theology can help us or must help us in our responses right now.
Thank you for that question. I think theology is about imagination. No one has seen God. or recently, unless you have been blessed by the Holy Spirit. And because we are theologians, we work with our imagination. How can we tell the world what God is about, what God is doing in our midst, especially in uncertain times? Theology asks ultimate questions. It is not only materialistic questions, those are very important, but we ask ultimate questions like, what is the meaning of life? How can we live in peace and justice? What kind of belief system we should subscribe to? Because as we all know that, we have very strong white Christian nationalism in our midst, talking about patriotism, talking about God as on our side. And that is why we can just snap tariffs on 180 some countries, and then we can just do whatever we want. But is God really on our side doing all this, upsetting the world order? The world order is not perfect. But with this upsetting and turmoil, many women, children, and the marginalized will be affected. So that is why we need to ask ourselves as theologians, what is God doing? What is God saying? And we recall, of course, the prophets of the ancient times. They met situations as drastic, uncertain as our times, and they have risen up to the task of speaking truth to power. And I guess today, as leaders of the church, as theologians, we need once again to touch that prophetic imagination or impulse, to dare to speak about truth, about what is the radical love of God in the midst of uncertainty, turmoil, and all this chaos.
You bring up the prophets, the biblical prophets. You also have written a book about the Bible from a particular lens, from cultural experiences. What in this experience, in this time where it's the U.S. government that is Caesar, and maybe has always been, but now it's like one of the bad Caesars. Now it's Nero. Now it's Caligula. But it's now we're the empire. We're Egypt. We're Persia. We're Rome, and so that's how. And a lot of times the Bible is used to enforce hardship and to justify oppression. How are we meant to use the Bible in this context of what we're living through to maybe redirect some conversation or bring up a counter narrative?
Thank you, Bishop Watkins, for mentioning my book that is Discovering the Bible in the Non-Biblical World, which I published in 1995. So this is an anniversary year for the book. When I wrote the book, I was approaching the Bible asking the question, what if we read the Bible not from a Western point of view, but from an Asian perspective? That is why I talk about the multi-religious atmosphere in Asia. I talk about how people do not just read the Bible or any scripture. People actually talk about it, that is usually using the oral hermeneutics. Talk about it, meditate about it, or even perform. Bible study is not just sitting together. Bible study is also performance. You share in storytelling form what you have learned anew today that you might have missed yesterday. But I think it is important to rediscover the most important tradition in the Bible. That is, the Bible was not conceived or written in a manual for the victors. Imagine they suffered from so many wars, conflicts, and then they were brought to Babylon in captivity. And of course, later they returned. And then their temple was destroyed and their belonging, of course, dispossessed. It was out of this turmoil that the Bible was put together to give the people hope and orientation. So anyone who missed that and used the Bible to suppress others or to boost the claim of nationalism would be completely out of sync with the central biblical message. The message, I suspect, will be God standing in solidarity of the oppressed, that God's mercy is enough for everyone, and we have to treat each other with justice and fairness, and especially offer grace and hospitality to the stranger among us. I really don't know how we can miss that very important message. Treat the aliens among you well. Didn't the Bible say that again and again? And today, we had this mass deportation, sending people without due process to a prison so far away that have no way of contacting their family members. This is not the United States we want, and somebody will be missing the central message of the Bible, that God is love. And the love is not only for me or for those who look like me, but for everyone.
I know that we don't have Emily Towns with us today, or Gary Dorian, or we don't have professional theological ethicists with us. But still, we'll just play ethicists right now. Do you think it's fair? Or well, you're a theologian, maybe you could be a moral theologian. What do you think it's fair to call what's happening evil?
To call what?
What is happening evil, with the deportations, the lack of due process, the 4-year-old kid with cancer without medical consideration. Just look, the person who had this 31-year-old makeup artist, he had an asylum hearing scheduled. His life is ruined. He might not survive now. I mean, over and over. The only word, maybe there's a better word, but the only word that keeps coming back to me is evil. Is it fair for us? Because we're not supposed to be judgmental. We're supposed to see all sides of things and be, smarter than. But I feel rage almost. Is it fair to call it evil?
I think Emory Towns wrote this very important book that talks about the cultural production of evil. That is, evil is not something out there. Evil is repeatedly reproduced. And we have seen this again and again in American history. The genocide of the indigenous people in the North America, the enslavement of millions of people over a very long period of time. Would you not say that culturally produced and socially produced? So it's pretty evil when we saw what is happening. And yet people are saying that they are abiding to the rules, or they are abiding to the Christian gospel. And I think this is completely blasphemy. That is, we are not really respecting God. Whether you call it evil or not, this is certainly unjust. This is humanly produced. This is not intended by God at all.
What would you say more now than ever before is the role of the church and what we're facing?
There are two places in the United States that sometimes you can voice critique, if not concern, for the society. One would be the universities. At least the professors are supposed to be protected by academic freedom. And that is why the Trump administration is getting so hard at them, because they wanted to change that atmosphere of critique, of learning, and of passing on wisdom from one generation to another. Another place, of course, is the church, because we are somewhat protected by the separation between the church and the state. That is, the state is not supposed to tell us what we can say, what we have to believe, or what we have to follow. So then, sociologically, we have to look at the church occupies a very special place. That is, relatively, we have the protection of saying what we believe in. But whether we are doing it or not is the question. As we all know, you know better than me, many churches have become middle-class clubs. Okay, it is wonderful to have the Easter eggs hunt. It is wonderful to have youth fellowship. It's great to have worship with people who look like us. We feel very comfortable. We are in our comfort zone. And I hope Sunshine Cathedral will be the exception to the norm. But very often I see churches repeating the things that they have done for many years without any change. Why? Because they are also afraid of upsetting the boat, so to speak. If you are really prophetic, maybe those who are richer or who have more privileges would not like to hear prophetic voices. You worry about, the budget, whether you can balance it or not. I am talking about it in a very honest way.
Yeah.
And with that kind of constraints, the church will not be prophetic. If you are worried about whether you can pay the bills or whatever, and then how can we say what we really believe in? That is why I think as church leaders, we have to begin to talk about the prophetic witness of the church requires a certain kind of characteristics, right? That is, whether we have the freedom to say what we want, whether we have the congregation that will support and follow, and whether we have a consistent message that we will nurture the congregation and the parishioners to understand the radical demand of faith. Otherwise, you see, Bonhoeffer already criticized decades ago cheap grace. We come to the church looking for solace and not to be challenged.
I would like you to say something to the lay audience, because the truth is, you have much more education than the average pastor. And you also have a little more freedom than a lot of pastors or priests, because bishops can't really tell you what to do. There's not a board of directors that can really tell you what to do. There's not, you're probably not going to get fired from, like you have some protections that maybe pastors don't feel like they have. You also have some knowledge, some access to information that not everyone has. How can you talk to lay people about how powerful they can be as if they will get theological education and then they have freedom to do exactly what you're doing today and calling us all to do?
Yes, indeed. I think that I believe in the priesthood of all believers. Remember that is really important for Reformation. And if we are not practicing it, and then the church will not thrive. If the laity remains very dormant, very passive, then the church cannot function well. And to equip the saints, the parishioners, will be very important. And that is why I am very glad to hear that EDS will be providing webinars, short courses, run conferences to help to equip the laity to assume responsibility in this critical time. I believe theological education should not be just for those who are called to ordained ministry. For a very long time, that has been the major model. And then we have lifelong learnings for the laity. But I think we need to break down that wall. Everyone, if you are a Christian, should have access to theological training, to broaden your imagination, to tell you what past history was like, so that we learned lessons to avoid those pitfalls that we have seen in faith communities. Democratic theological education will equip everyone to respond to God's calling, which is to all and not limited only to those who want to be professionals working in a church setting.
There's a lot of education available right now. I mean, people sort of need subscriptions or donations or something so they can do it, but podcast and Substack and YouTube, scholars really are giving it away. I mean, world class, Oxford, Harvard, Yale, Union kind of scholars. And so this is sort of a magical time for that. Robert goes to bed a little bit before I do. And when he goes to bed, he says, I go to YouTube University, because that's when I get my notebook out, my pen, and I'm in class for free. And it's amazing. So everyone can get that. I mean, that's just available to everyone now.
Exactly. I think that we really do not need those established channels. Everyone can start a YouTube channel.
Yes. I do want to, because we have a few more minutes, so I want to ask another theologian's question about the Imago Dei. Because it seems like if we really had any concept of that, then this war on trans people and this war on asylum seekers and this war on women's bodies and bodily autonomy just couldn't happen if we really saw that divine imprint on anyone other than white, male, straight, affluent people. If we really had any sort of practical concept of the Imago Dei, it just seems like we couldn't accept what's going on right now.
Exactly. But, because, you see, we all have sometimes forgotten. It's not just a thin slice of human beings will bear that image of God. Everyone has been created in the image of God. And it is not that you need to be male, white, heterosexual. The image of God can be found in everyone because everyone is God's children. Not only that, now we need to stretch that even further. It's not the human beings that reflect God's glory and honor. Maybe the four-legged companions, they are also in very special way related to God. We are facing this tremendous climate emergency. Unless we do something about it quickly, we will be heading for disaster, and so will the whole planet. That is why we need to stretch the imagination. We are not at the peak or the pinnacle of creation because we have this image of God in us, because we are called to be responsible and to live in a harmonious way with all the creation of God. And I fully agree with you. Today, we need to speak out even more for our trans brothers and sisters. They were put into a situation to divide us. And I don't know why trans bathroom will become key issues in the campaign. So you can see that those wedge issues divide the populace. And I hope we understand those tricks. And that is why we need to stand in solidarity. Today, more than ever, we need to say to our trans brothers and sisters, to tell them we are here. We stand up in solidarity with your struggles.
Well, Professor Pui-lan, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. I've always appreciated from my first time at EDS, the Episcopal Divinity School, your first class, and even to the day, just being in your presence is just honoring and humbling, and still to learn from you almost 20 years later from my time at EDS, it's still just a very special moment to be with us today. So as we wrap this up, again, focusing on the topic of the importance of faith in uncertain times, I would like to ask you to do the closing word for us, for our viewers as we sign off here.
I wish you a long journey to know about God, develop wisdom and knowledge, and most importantly, touch your heart. Because when you touch your heart, you touch the pain of the world, you touch the very heart of God. Amen.
Thank you so much, and thank you to
Thank you so much.
And we thank you all for being with us. Take care.
Thank you.